And welcome to Whiskey Politics. I'm Dave Sussman, the purveyor at whiskeypolitics.net, and your host. You can find us at America's Voice News Network. Check us out online, also at YouTube. And if you're not subscribed yet at YouTube, please find and subscribe to Whiskey Politics. You can also find us on your podcast application of choice, including iTunes, Stitcher, and Google Play. And if you're enjoying the show, please make sure you give us a 5-star rating on iTunes. And of course, always find us at the Ricochet Network. You know, one of the things that's really been amazing to me to see over the past year is this discussion that is now happening online at different conventions, on different shows with individuals that I consider to be extremely brave. What we're talking about today are those individuals that are standing up and saying, you know what? I'm having a little bit of a problem with some of the things that I'm hearing about regarding identity politics or the different aspects of cookie cutting me into certain demographic groups because of my race, because of my sexuality. Well, last week at Dinesh D'Souza's red carpet event, I was fortunate enough to meet Ricky Rebel. And Ricky Rebel joins us today to talk about all this. Welcome. How are you today?
I'm doing great.
Love the outfit, Ricky.
Thank you. You know I got to represent.
Looking great. So, first of all, welcome and thank you for joining us. One of the things that I find to be extremely profound today is when I'm hearing different individuals such as Brandon Struck from the Walkaway movement or other individuals that are really not matching the demographic and what you're supposed to be saying and supposed to be thinking and supposed to be promoting. You, I met at, again, Dinesh D'Souza's red carpet event last week for his new movie, Death of a Nation.
Right.
And my first question to you is, what the heck are you doing here?
How did I get here?
Right.
Well, it's been quite a journey, right? I live in Hollywood. I'm a recording artist. I was signed to Madonna's record label when I was a kid. I toured with Britney Spears. I went solo, and now I have my own records, and I'm producing and writing. I'm Ricky Rebel, the recording artist. I have a couple Billboard top 40 hits.
Right.
And I'm not supposed, and I'm obviously openly LGBT, so I'm not supposed to like anything on the right. Anything past left is completely off limits.
Right.
And I find that incredibly fascist. Period.
I want to talk more about that because that's a word that's being thrown about a lot lately.
Yeah.
Let's talk about you, okay? For those folks that are just being introduced to you for the first time, you worked with Madonna, 98 Degrees.
Right.
You've been in movies such as, or your music has been in movies such as, Apollo 13 and others. Tell us a little bit about your career.
Well, I started off as a singer and a dancer, and I sang on Anastasia and on Apollo 13 on the soundtracks.
Right.
And I got signed at a very young age by Michael Jackson. He discovered me, and I was in a pop group called No Authority. So we toured Europe twice. We opened for Aaron Carter, 90 Degrees, and that's when I started meeting all of these celebrities and really getting into everything and charting and touring and getting into that life. And then later on, Madonna's record label, she wanted to buy us from Michael's label and sign us to Maverick Records.
Okay.
So we released a record through Maverick, and it was wonderful because they put us on tour with Britney Spears. We had a hit song called Can I Get Your Number, Baby? And it was just amazing. So I've had this crazy life where I've spent time with Michael Jackson on the Neverland Ranch. I was signed by Madonna, and I've toured with Britney. So I've had quite a history. And what I've always wanted to do, though, as an artist, I've always wanted to be solo. I've always wanted to be like my heroes, like Michael and Madonna, and do things on my own. And it wasn't until like the labels started kind of dying off that I had the opportunity to do so. Now more and more independent artists are having a shot at making it. There's kind of like a middle class now for artists. It used to be like you're either, not popular at all, no one knows who you are, or you're Madonna, or you're Michael Jackson, nothing in between. Really. So now there's like more of a middle class for an artist to kind of work their way up.
Okay.
So that's what I'm doing. I'm working my way up. the latter.
Now, you produce a lot of videos, and folks can find you on YouTube and just search you, Ricky Rebel, and you've got a new album, The New Alpha. Is that what it's called?
The New Alpha, yeah.
Right, and I want to talk about the name as well in a minute, because there's a lot of discussion right now regarding gender and sexuality, and a lot of things that people are starting to talk about, and it's causing a lot of people to be uncomfortable. But I want to get to that in just a couple of moments.
Okay.
So you have a lot of videos that are out there, and you are openly gay. You talk about that in your music.
Right.
Right.
Boys and girls.
Boys and girls.
Boys and sometimes girls is one of my songs.
Right, which I saw, and so I guess that's bisexual, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Technically,
right? LGBT, right? That's the B part.
Right.
So what a lot of folks that are on the right have been, we talk about cookie cutting people based upon your sexuality, based upon your gender, on your race these days, that you are supposed to think a certain way politically because of where you stand.
Right.
A lot of people think everybody on the right are Nazi, homophobic, xenophobic individuals as well. I'm somebody that I consider myself right of center. My belief has always been, I don't care. I judge you based upon the character of you as an individual. If you're a good person, right?
Right.
But unfortunately, the many on the right have been cookie cut as well, and so you talk about Donald Trump, and a lot of people on the left, especially from the LGBTQ, and I know there's a bunch of other initials.
Yeah.
They talk about Donald Trump as being very. He's not. They feel that he has attacked the homosexual community.
Right.
I think the one thing they can point to is transgenders and the military.
Yeah.
Okay. What is your impression of Donald Trump and his, policies and how he has acted towards this community?
I've always liked Donald Trump. I liked him before he ran in 2014. I was quoted in a magazine saying, I want to be the gay version of Donald Trump. I want to be successful. I want to hire people. I want to have big companies. He was heralded as that person, as that individual by rappers. Rappers loved Donald Trump. They used to rap about him, how cool he was because of his success.
Right.
And all of a sudden, after he started running, everybody decided to determine out of thin air that he's a racist, that he is all of these labels that they labeled him. And yes, he has said some things that people can debate about whether or not he meant that or didn't mean that. But at the end of the day, he was loved and heralded. He was the biggest star on TV. And then all of a sudden, he's the most hated person on the planet, next to people who really, really love him too. For me, I just liked his character on the show. It was like, you either put up or shut up.
The Apprentice.
The Apprentice, right. It was, they got into the room and he's like, so Clay Aiken, he's gay.
Right.
He treated Clay exactly the same way that he treated every other person. So he didn't see Clay as a gay man. He saw Clay as just a man. And he had a job to do, right? And either Clay did the job right or he failed. And Trump treated them equally, whether you're a woman, whether you're black, whether you're gay. And I like that. Mm-hmm. It was like equal opportunity to either be, raised up, like he would congratulate you, or if you failed at something, he would let you know and ask you why. Why did you? And you would have an opportunity to express to everybody else why. And say, Donald Trump, this is why this and this happened. So I saw that he would listen to people as well.
And you saw this 4 or 5 years ago. You said 2013.
Yeah.
And you appreciated where he came from because of the way he treated people. So
right.
He ran for president, and all of a sudden he's a racist. He's a sexist. This is what you're hearing from your friends, right?
Oh, absolutely. Everybody all of my friends who are LGBT despise Donald Trump. It's like not even a question. Mm-hmm. He is literally Hitler, like they say. And I don't feel that way, and I never felt that way. And it's very uncomfortable to be in an interview situation. Most of my interviews that I get are far leaning left. Everything is left. So all my interviews are, so what do you think about this horrible presidency of Trump? What do you think about that? What are your thoughts? Do you feel restricted? Do you feel this? And I'm like, no, I feel fine, actually. Things are going really well. My career is doing well. I haven't seen any of my rights taken away, so we're doing well. But even for me to say that is completely controversial. Like, they want me to hate him. And I've lost managers. I've lost managers because they didn't like my political leanings or my views on certain things. I've lost people. Some people won't play my record. Some gay men who actually were my friends who remixed my songs. They refuse to play my songs in clubs. And then some people that I'm with they happen to lean a little more to the left. They love me because they see that my intentions are good. I'm not trying to hurt anybody. And they say, well, I might not agree with him on this and this issue, but I agree with him on all of these other issues, right? My issues about wanting to protect LGBT rights and wanting,
Right.
I'm pro that, you know, I'm always for that and always for civil rights for people. I'm essentially a classical liberal. And it's changed. Like the liberals, we started here in the 80s and 90s, and now the whole thing has shifted way over. The barometer's changed.
Right.
So now that means I'm a right centrist.
You talk about individuality and as the way that you appear to the world. You certainly are an individual, but much of classic liberalism is about individualism.
Yes. Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And self-autonomy. And that's where you come from.
Completely individual. Look at me. I dress the way I want.
Yeah.
Obviously, I sing the way I want. I sing about topics that I want to sing about. The labels try to put me in a box, and now the liberal media and my friends and people who are, of that inclination that Donald Trump is a Nazi, they try to put me in a box in that way as well. They try to say you have to be a certain way, and that's why I wrote the new Alpha, and that's why the new music video. I'm trapped in a box. The new Alpha. Right. I'm trapped in this box because everybody's trying to label people. Everybody's trying to, you belong to this tribe. You're a part of the gay tribe. Yeah. So in order for you not to be disloyal to us, you must vote this way. Otherwise, you're disloyal to the gay community. And I think it's... And this has impacted you personally. You said that you lost your manager. What did he, I assume it's a he, say to you? Well, I came out as an open Trump supporter, which is a big no-no. Okay. I did a couple interviews. This is back in 2016? Yes. I think it was even 2017. Okay. It was right after he spoke at the UN and he faced Afghanistan and Iran and all these people and told them that we're not going to tolerate. So this was after he was elected? Yeah. Okay. I got so inspired by that speech because he was staring down these people, and the radical Islamicists love to throw gays off of buildings, right? So I'm completely anti-radical Islam. That's another reason why I like him. But he stared them right in the face. He wasn't afraid. He just spoke his truth and spoke the truth and told them, hey, we're not going to tolerate what you guys are doing. We're not following the deal that we had. We talk about alpha, we talk about beta males today. That's being thrown out a lot. There's a lot of great memes out there online. Beta cucks, right. But when we talk about this, I had this guest on a few weeks ago. His name's Dr. Warren Farrell. He wrote a book called The Boy Crisis. I don't know if you are familiar with it. No. And the discussion that's taking place right now is that for as long as I can remember, boys have always been the more masculine of the two genders, women and girls, obviously the opposite of that. But now there seems to be some kind of a mix, and a lot of people are talking about today that maybe gender doesn't matter. Maybe we shouldn't raise our children to believe that blue for boys, pink for girls, let boys play with Barbies, let girls play with G.I. Joes. Right? Right. Talk about the new Alpha and talk about it from your perspective. Okay. Well, I wrote this record in 2014. I started writing the record because I noticed a trend in victim thinking. There's a lot of people trying to say that because they're not succeeding in life based upon their skin color or based upon their sexuality or giving many excuses as to why their life isn't the way they want it to be. And I had a problem with that because I grew up with parents that they're kind of strict on me, not very, very strict, but it's they taught me to take responsibility for my own life. Mm-hmm. And I know that if I walked around trying to put blame on society and say, well, I haven't made it because of X, Y, and Z, because I'm part of LGBT community, that doesn't help me and it doesn't help anybody around me. So I wrote the new record, the new Alpha, to toughen up people, especially my LGBT community. I wanted them to toughen up. And in a way, I feel like there's like a war against masculinity. It's strange to me because before it was people trying to pull me one way to be more masculine. And now it seems like society, especially the RuPaul generation, is trying to pull me to become a drag queen. So I feel like I'm pulled from this way to this way. And I just want to be myself. I just want to be me without all these labels, without, oh, you're a drag queen. Oh, you need to be more manly. When I was in the 90s growing up, it's like they wanted me to be more manly. They say you'll never make it if you're openly gay. You'll never make it if you're overly feminine and flamboyant. But I knew the times would change. I knew that the barometer is going to change. And eventually my, quote, flamboyant nature is going to be seen as a strength, like Prince and like David Bowie. So I, quote, did my thing, and now it's gone the other way. Ricky, you're not extreme enough. You're not wearing wigs. You're not wearing all this makeup. You're not dressing like a woman. And there's this thing called toxic masculinity now. So there's a war against white males. It's fascinating to me. I can't stand that. I think it's ridiculous. So now they're trying to push me this way. So I wrote the new alpha to try to create balance and show people how to be a balanced human. How to not be so overly masculine all the time, where you're too aggressive. Like, you could be too aggressive, too, quote, manly, starting fights with everybody and going all aggro. Or you could be overly passive. On the other side, you're overly passive and you get manipulated and you get trampled on and people take advantage of you. Growing up, I was the kid that fought back. When I was bullied, you try to punch me, I punch you harder. I kick you in the belly. That was me. I fought back. And so I kind of wanted to strengthen some of my fans who are being bullied. I know that it's a horrible thing what they're going through. In fact, I'll tell you about a story of one of my fans. He's from the UK, and his name on social media is Glam Rock Kinsey. And he's literally like a mini me. He has blonde hair. He does his eyeshadow like me. He's 10 years old. He plays the guitar. And he's like, Ricky, I love being me, but it's really difficult because I get bullied so much. And he's like, do you have any advice for me? How do I stop that? How do I get through my experience? And I told him, like, sometimes you have to stand up for what you believe in. Just continue to be you. Continue to make music. They just don't understand you yet. Eventually they will. And there was another post that came out like months and months later. It turns out that one of his bullies like picked him up off the ground and threw him on his head, on his neck, and he broke his neck. And they had to carry him out in a gurney. And I was like devastated. I saw these posts of him. I'm like, what just happened? And he got bullied. So I definitely understand. And I ended up sending him all my merch. I sent him all my CDs. I sent him my like letters to him. And he got right back on his guitar. He has his little neck brace on. He got right back on his guitar. He's still wearing makeup. He's still dyeing his hair pink or whatever he wants to do. He's still, Glam Rock Kinsey is still him.
Right.
And he's thanked me for being an inspiration for him. It's still a problem. But at the same time, I think that you can't just crumble. You can't be passive about it.
So let me ask you this, because what you're talking about, going back to what we were just talking about in the previous segment, and that is about having autonomy over oneself. A lot of what people say on the left is that, oh no, it's the government's job to protect us. It's the government's job to make hate speech laws and to do all of these different things that is going to correct people's behavior. What you're saying is what exactly? That alpha male, is that it's time for you to stand up and what exactly?
Not be a victim?
Not be a victim.
Right. It's time to balance. And those of you who maybe feel like, that to have a fear of femininity, maybe. You might have a fear of, I don't know what side of the scale you're kind of coming from. For me, for a lot of LGBT, we have a problem with masculinity because our lives, a lot of times, we maybe had a father figure who was ashamed of who we are. Right? So we have to constantly if we're trying to be balanced humans, try to have a healthy relationship with our own power, our own strength and masculinity.
Do you believe gender as a is a social construct. These are the things that we're hearing now from many people.
Right.
Like you have a song, I think it's called Gender is an Illusion.
I say that.
Okay.
In the new Alpha.
In the new Alpha, right.
Yeah, my mom hated that line, by the way.
Okay. So talk about that. I mean, is gender an illusion? Is it a social construct? Or is there men and women? Or, I mean...
Here's where I stand with all of this.
Okay.
I differ from a lot of my peers and a lot of people. When you're born, scientifically speaking, you pop out, you have a penis or a vagina, or you have both. That's considered our sex. So you're either a male, female, or you're intersex. And your relationship to who you are, like how you feel inside, can vary. Like sometimes you have a penis, but like inside you don't necessarily have, like they're talking about, they have female brains now, like more inclined to more femininity in the brain, that they don't feel necessarily like men, or like a male. So I can attest to all those people. I don't know what that must feel like. I'm not trans. I've always considered myself to be a man and a male every day. Every day. There's not a day where I look in the mirror and I say, oh, you're such a pretty girl, or I want to be a girl.
Right.
That's never crossed my mind. Everything I wear, like my makeup, is all an expression of my creativity, not my gender. So I can't speak for trans people, and I can't speak for probably 90% of my LGBT community. Like, I'm not here to talk for them. I'm here to talk about individualism, right?
Right.
My own perspective. And I'm trying to be understood. I'm using these clothes and my makeup as an expression of creativity, not gender. So that means the alpha male, the new alpha, he can wear a dress, he can wear makeup, and he doesn't lose his power, his masculinity, his maleness, unless that's what he wants to do.
A lot of people will say that the idea of not allowing for genders, in England, there's a movement right now that says when a baby is born, you can no longer check boy or girl. The doctor is no longer going to be allowed to do that.
Mm.
A lot of people will say that there's an inherent danger to that.
That's bad.
It is bad?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
It's very confusing to tell kids that you're not a boy or a girl. They can't even, and then they're saying they can determine their own sex. Mm-hmm. They don't even know when to go to the bathroom. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Not as a child.
Not as a child. It's
right.
Very strange. I think it's, some scientists have said, or therapists have said, it's child abuse. I personally I would never do that to my child. I'll never try to tell them, you're not a boy or a girl.
Right.
If anything, you are a male. You want to play that game. You're a male. You are.
Yeah. No
matter what. They are a female. They are a male. And what happened was, I think back in the day that they tried to confuse people with this word gender. Mm-hmm. Before it was just you're a male or female, and that's kind of it. And now gender it's just expanded. There's like 68 different genders. Apparently there's a gender called swamp gender. Have you heard of it?
Swamp?
Yeah.
What, for Louisiana people?
It's for people who feel like a swamp.
Okay.
Isn't that crazy?
But it's insane, and I think most people, I'm just gonna throw it out there right now. Most people think the whole thing is insane. Okay, you got boys, you got girls. You may be somewhat mixed in between. Yeah. Okay, that's fine. I know a couple of trans people. They're wonderful, lovely people.
I love.
All right.
Come on.
And so yes, but anyway, want to continue talking about this, and we'll be right back after the break with Ricky Rebel. Thank you. Before I get into some of the other social issues, I want to talk to you a little bit about music, okay? I'm a huge music fan. I write music. I've got a couple of CDs myself that went zero anywhere, but more jazz type stuff.
Cool.
But talk about, because you are very much in pop, Michael Jackson and all of the, Madonna, huge influencers. Talk about, from your standpoint, who did influence you when you grew up? I want to talk a little bit music here.
Okay, great. Growing up, I was really in love with Madonna, really in love with Michael. Uh-huh. Like they were the king and queen of my musical world. I started making music when I was just a kid, around right when I got signed. I picked up the guitar.
Which was when?
That was in 1998.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So 20 years in the industry now.
Yeah.
Wow.
Still going.
Congratulations.
I must really love it to keep trooping.
All right.
But yeah.
Yeah, and so growing up, you listened to Michael, you listened to Madonna. It was mostly pop then.
Yeah, mostly pop music.
Okay.
I think you know what I found out growing up now. What I find now is that I don't necessarily like their music as much as their image and who they were.
Okay.
Like Prince, and David Bowie. I tend to like the artists a little more than the art
Okay.
because I like the artists that actually stand for something. That
Musically, Prince is probably one of the greatest guitarists of all times. Incredible. And
incredible.
David Bowie, I'm a huge fan.
yeah. David Bowie has informed me so much, but that was
Right.
later on in my
Right.
development. It at first was kind of like I think Prince was my first.
Yeah.
I know every single Prince song ever.
Yeah.
And then now it's kind of developed into more Bowie vibe. But again, it's the artist as a whole. It's how they present themselves. That's very important to me.
So a lot of that is branding, right? A lot of that is presentation. Okay, it's how you put yourself out there to the world.
Right.
What do you see right now with the state of music today in pop and rock or whatever other genres you may be interested in listening to, as far as the quality of the music, or do we have a lot of people that are just focused more on the image today?
Well, it's about some people are doing image conscious things because they're trying to get somewhere. They're trying to copy somebody else. That's the thing about these artists that I really admire and love.
Okay.
Is that they did it for a whole other reason. Like Madonna was doing her quote branding. She's wearing a cone bra with points at the end to
Right.
demonstrate her power as a woman, to be strong and to use her body as a weapon. So there's like a messaging behind what they're doing. And a lot of artists now are just they're taking off all their clothes just to be sexy. They have nothing going on in the back of their minds as to why they're being sexy or what it is they're trying to talk about.
So a lot of that originally may have been for shock value, but the fact that it's so ubiquitous now, there's probably no shock to it anymore.
Right.
So is the music strong enough for them to still stay up there with their fans, or?
I just want them to use their brains
Okay.
a little more.
Who are some of your favorite singers today?
Like I said, I'm not really listening. Oh, I listen to all kinds of music, from Drake to Nicki to Ariana Grande to you name it. I'm listening to it. Honestly, nothing is really making me go, oh my gosh, like I love this one particular artist, because again, a lot of artists are afraid these days to get back into a little bit about politics.
Yeah.
They're afraid to speak out and really speak their minds. Because right now, we are living in a very politically divisive time, a very divisive, I think every single artist should be talking about it. But the fact that no one is writing about it, unless it's coming from all, like Eminem, you're trashing the president.
What do you think of what
What an
Kanye
awful pig he is.
talked about being an
Or you're
individual?
Kanye. Which
Okay.
actually Kanye, I love his music. I've always really liked him.
Mm-hmm.
But now I love Kanye because of his bold statement going on Jimmy Kimmel and doing what he's doing. And I don't, like I said, it's the artist to me is more than just their music. It's what do you stand for? What are you advocating? He's advocating for free speech. So of course I'm attracted to that. I'm advocating for free speech, freedom of expression. And there are not very many artists doing that these days, so I'm not very inspired by a lot of them.
Yeah. Do you believe that when somebody like Kanye comes out and he talks about not being locked into some groupthink, okay, that there's people that are out there outside of the echo chambers that raise an eyebrow and say, yeah, he has a point? Do you think that will actually win some converts?
I think that everybody in the right mind, okay, recognizes like it is valid.
Mm-hmm.
I can vote for whoever I want to. Just because I'm gay doesn't mean I have to vote a certain way.
Right.
Just because he's black doesn't mean he has to vote a certain way. And if you think otherwise, and if you try to punish our careers, which has happened
Right.
to me and obviously to Kanye, everybody who steps out of line, you are acting like a fascist. I know I'm bringing up that word again, but that's what it is. You say, oh, if you don't vote this way, I'm going to hurt your career. I'm going to do whatever I can to destroy you.
Yeah.
You can't see how that is fascist? It's crazy. Kanye is able to vote for whoever he wants to. I'm able to vote for her. Madonna's able to vote for whoever she wants to.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not not buying her album because she despises Trump. I know a lot of people are, but I still respect the art. And at the end of the day, they can't do the same for us. You know, they can't. The radical on the left, they won't let people like me and Kanye just kind of be and just say, hey, you know, it's like, we must destroy you. We must hurt you. And I think that's wrong.
I grew up in a time when, you know, I learned music through the classic rock age, okay? I mean, I was a child in the 70s, and for me, it was Zeppelin. I just saw ELO last weekend, right, with Jeff Lynne, and the Beatles, and the Who, and all the classic rock bands. But cool. I also really morphed into a kind of a pseudo-punk, where it Clash, especially in their later albums, where they were kind of like the Renegades, right? And the Rebels, okay?
Yeah.
And who are the rebels today?
Hi, everyone. My name is Ricky Rebel, and I'm a rebel because I speak out for what I believe in.
But where do we see them today?
Despite the consequences, because the consequences of me holding it in are worse. Either way, there are consequences to our behavior.
You stand up.
You either stand up, or you sit down, and then you have resentment. So you stand up, and then some people hate it, and some people love it.
Right.
But at the end of the day, you can't just sit back and because you start to resent.
But so this idea of standing up, and to quote Jordan Peterson, he says, "Be a lobster, stand up straight." Okay,
I love Jordan Peterson.
Right, and so you have this idea now that people are standing up and they're saying, "Okay, I'm going to really voice my opinion, and my career, my family, and my friends be damned, because this is who I truly am." Where do we see that outside of a few today? I mean, we had Sabo, the conservative street artist. I don't know if you're familiar with him.
I'm friends with him.
Oh, he's a great guy, right?
He did an art piece for me. I asked him to do an art piece.
Okay.
It's WeHo is a jihad-free zone.
Which is?
WeHo,
West Hollywood, yes.
West Hollywood is a jihad-free zone, and it has like little people cutouts, you know, black, like whatever, just like a black little sketch of people, and he has like the hood on,
right?
And he's gonna cut off his head.
Yes.
But it says WeHo is a jihad-free zone. It's very important to me that he did that.
And what he's saying, though, is that by standing up and being a provocateur, okay, he's saying conservatism is the new punk.
Of course it is.
Right?
Of course.
Do we see that in music anywhere outside of Ricky Rebel?
No.
Do you talk to folks about it in the industry?
Because they're subscribed to the groupthink.
Okay.
They're locked into identity politics. They can't see one issue for the other issue. Like for me, everything is about this particular issue. Okay, I stand here. I might go right, left. This issue, I go right, left. This issue, I go right, left. But for them, it's like, I was just speaking to one of my dear friends who's an amazing DJ. He's like, you know, Ricky, it should be a make or break situation when it comes to Trump and the way he treats the gay community. It should be a deal breaker for you. And I'm like, what? Well, why?
What exactly? What has Trump done?
What did he? I want to know. And I asked him. And then he spoke about what you and I were speaking about with Death of a Nation.
Yes.
The civil rights issue, right?
Okay.
Speaking about how it's okay to fire people, men specifically, or women too, for being gay. Okay. So that is what specifically he was talking about, and that I do have a problem with. You know, just because it's against your religious beliefs that you could fire someone for being gay. Okay, we have to talk about that.
You shouldn't be able to do that.
I agree.
Right.
I think it's a civil rights issue.
Okay.
And I agree with him. But he said, but you know.
But who's being fired because they're gay?
You're supporting someone. I know, but who's being fired for being gay?
Right. That's my question, though.
I don't know. Apparently, you know, according to people that they're saying it's.
What policies or laws have been enacted that will allow employers to do that by this president?
Well, what they're saying is that, you know, Jeff Sessions is not standing up and saying, oh, yes, gay rights is our civil rights. He's kind of saying, no, it's not. It's not really determined whether or not that's true. Blacks, you know, race is protected, sex is protected, but it's not really stated whether or not gay rights are protected or gay people are protected under civil rights.
But it is. It is against the law of federal law and state laws to fire somebody based upon their sexual preference.
I looked it up, and apparently Most states feel that way, and there's some that don't.
Okay.
And at the end of the day, that his point is you're not supporting you're not supporting an administration that believes in that. So it should be a deal breaker for you. I'm like, listen, I wanted jobs. We have a 4.1 GDP.
Mm-hmm.
There's 4 million jobs created. What else? People are lowest unemployment for blacks and Latinos in recorded history. I'm like telling him. And when I work, I'm happy. I know that when I have a job and I'm, paying my bills, I'm super happy. And that's what I wanted for the American people.
Right.
And what did Mr. T, I'll call him Mr. T, because he's such a trigger word for everybody. What did Mr. T go after? Jobs, jobs, jobs.
Yeah. Well, I think at the end of the day, everybody's about pocketbook issues, right?
It should always be that. That's first.
Yeah. But at the same time, because I know folks that are in the gay community, and I've got friends of mine in Hollywood, and many of them are right of center, so maybe I'm somewhat of an echo chamber myself. But the fact is that nobody can point to any one policy or any one statement that is in any way reduced the rights of an individual based upon their sexual preference or their sexuality.
Or affected them.
Or impacted them.
Trump...
They keep going to transgenders in the military. It wasn't because of transgenders. It was because of the fact that there is different physical requirements to be in the military.
Yeah, we can talk about that transgender thing
okay.
after this. But remember when Trump held up the LGBTs for Trump, or remember he held up the gay flag?
Yes, the rainbow flag.
That was a bold move.
Yes.
I'm not saying that was like, oh, that means it doesn't mean, what does it mean? Just means that he held up a Republican,
right,
conservative, running and holding up a LGBTs for Trump. That's pretty dope.
Yeah.
That was cool. Because there are LGBT people that are for him. They just can't say it.
No, I met several at CPAC this year.
Yeah. Little Richard was a Republican. Liberace was a Republican.
I didn't know Liberace was.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's like, okay, there's
I love
all these labels, but...
Liberace, I saw Liberace when I was a kid. Just a real quick anecdote here for you. My dad took me to Vegas, and I was like 10 or 11 years old, and I went to go see Liberace. And as he walked out with his big mink, and he had the chandeliers, and he did the whole thing, he was just kind of walking across the stage. The announcer goes, and ladies, he is single.
That's perfect.
Yeah, because it was an out, right? I mean, we all kind of knew, but even as a 10-year-old, I kind of figured it out. But I just remember that today.
You remember it was weird.
Yeah.
Like, I want to be like the 2018, like, sexy Liberace. I want to be sexier than he was, but...
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, let's go back to what we're trans, right?
Real quick. We're going to take one last quick break here, and we'll be right back here with interview with Ricky Rebel. And welcome back. Dave Sussman here, Whiskey Politics, joined again by Ricky Rebel. And Ricky, we were just talking about the transgender community, and a lot of articles have come out, especially from the left. You have Vox, you have groups like the ACLU, and they refer to this president being bad for the LGBT community. And you were saying what you were hearing from the community itself, and how you are being persuaded, or at least trying to be persuaded to think a certain way.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And so from the transgender community, what are you hearing?
Well, I'm hearing that basically, that tweet he sent out was that no, the transgenders are banned from the military. Mm-hmm. He did a really quick couple tweets, and then it was done, right? They're saying they were too expensive. He said they were too expensive. And
that's to do with what, surgeries?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that's what he was referring to.
I thought so as well.
And the way, we can talk about the surgeries and whatnot, but with the LGBT, they didn't like that he did that. Mm-hmm. They don't like that he cornered, trans that are serving in the military, who are doing it, who are brave and serving well, and they're good soldiers and whatnot. So that's what they had a problem with. And it was also done with a couple of tweets. They have a problem with that too, which I kind of have a problem too. It's kind of weird to do it that way. Maybe it could have been done a little more professionally, I guess is the word. But
a lot of people say that.
Professionally, maybe with a little letterhead, have Sarah Huckabee read it off and not Trump. Maybe one of the military men, like one of the generals, could state why he wanted it that way. But at the end of the day, being in the military is not a right. like, it's not a right for us to be in the military. There are many requirements that you have to have. And one of those requirements is mental health. You can't be bipolar. You can't be manic depressant. You can't have any sort of, mental things going on. And unfortunately, statistically speaking, a lot of trans have mental health things that they're working through.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something to consider. But I think that if in my personal opinion, if a trans soldier and meets all the requirements of everybody else, I think that they should be allowed to be in the military. However, I don't want to pay for people's surgery, cosmetically speaking. I don't want to pay for a boob job, with our tax money, any more than I want to pay for someone's reassessment surgery. I know that's controversial for me to say. I probably shouldn't say it. But
a lot of taxpayers would agree with that, because many people would consider that something that, if you want to take care of that on your own, you should do that. That's fine. All the power to you. But why should the taxpayers foot the bill?
Right. And that was one of the things I think that sometimes people would go in the military to pay for their surgery.
Yeah.
And if that was the case if that was true, then I think that's not very cool. But if you want to go in the military, you want to serve, and you just want to serve just like everybody else, I think that you should be allowed to, whether you're trans or not.
Okay.
That's my personal opinion.
Right. Okay. So getting back to your community, and when I say your community, I'm talking about the music community.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because again, you've lost a manager. You said you've lost friends.
My best friends.
You've lost your best friends. Okay, because you have stood up.
It's always the best friends.
Well, the question is, I couldn't imagine losing my friends because of a political opinion. Okay?
Yeah.
So talk to me about that. What was that process, and what happened?
Well, they were just so bitter. Just so bitter that he won. They didn't expect it at all. And I did. I knew he was going to win. I mean, I had like a 2% chance that he wouldn't, but I pretty much...
You're one of the very few.
I know, and I don't understand why people were so in the dark about it.
Okay.
Look at his rallies. He's a rock star.
Yeah.
The only other person that kind of had rallies like that was Bernie, that kind of fervent appeal. But Trump had a huge audience, huge appeal with people. And everybody's talking about him, and plus I knew that they were faking the polls. Those are rigged polls.
Mm-hmm.
And I would I would listen to podcasts, people who had the actual stats of how he was doing. He was doing really well. And if you were watching those people and not mainstream news, you would have known that he was going to win.
So November the 8th, 2016 happens, and you were happy, I assume. Okay.
I wore all red.
You were all red. you were MAGA, okay?
Much to the
But your friends before and after the election.
Well, I got a letter from one of my friends on Facebook saying, I said, okay, the people have spoken, because we were going on and on and on and on. And I said, well, the people have spoken, all right? So we can just put this behind us now. We can move on. And he's like, no, the people haven't spoken. The people spoke for Hillary because she won the popular vote. And I'm like, okay, well, they weren't running for the popular vote. Not to mention all the illegals and dead people that voted beyond. That's another story. At the end of the day, just really upset. And I never heard from him again. And this is one of my closest friends.
Okay.
He had no idea this would happen. And a couple of my friends we got in a couple talks on the phone that got really heated, and they got really uncomfortable with me. One of my, quote, friends, who's really not my friend anymore, called me a white nationalist supporter, called me all kinds of things, names, because I didn't denounce what he had said during the whole, I forget where it was.
Campaign?
No. Remember when
Charlottesville?
Charlottesville.
Okay.
Right, because he said there were bad people on both sides, which there are. There are crazy people on the left, like radicals on both sides and then there were people in the middle who were just kind of there protesting the statues being taken down. So that's what he meant by that, when he said that there were some good people there too.
Right.
And people that just wanted to pick a fight with people. So they couldn't understand how I could see that, and they called me, oh, well, you're a white nationalist supporter. You're a white nationalist. I'm like, you're out of your mind. I'm pro-gay rights. I'm a Latin man. I'm not, it was just crazy. And I stopped talking to that individual like right after that, but it was painful. It hurt. It's more of a risk to my career to come out as a right-leaning centrist than it is for me to be gay in this day and age, which is exactly why I want to talk about it. Which is exactly why, because I'm a rebel at the end of the day. I've always been a rebel. They told me not to be flamboyant, or they told me not to be feminine, so I pump up the volume even more. And now they're telling me not to like certain views. But I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to like them more, and I'm going to express my views more. I feel very uncomfortable when people try to put me in a box. I'm sure you do too.
I am. And like you, I don't put up with it. But at the same time, I wouldn't expect to lose friends of mine, because I've got friends of mine that are on the left side of the aisle. We may have stopped following each other on Facebook, but at the same time, I still consider them a friend. And if I saw them, I'd sit down like I'm sitting down with you right now, and because I care about them. I love them as individuals.
Right.
And that's where my confusion comes from so many. And you're not the first person from the artistic community that I've heard this situation happen.
Right.
So emotion trumps facts. Is that what you're hearing?
Just, yeah. Their idea of who and what he is based upon a mainstream media narrative. Mm-hmm. And the mainstream media are run by conglomerates, by globalists. And they have a certain narrative that they'd like to pursue because they'd like to have globalism.
Are you hearing anything from within the community of support?
Yes, I have. I've heard people like Don Gregg who invited me, people like Sabo, they invited me to Death of a Nation. I was one of their guests. I walked the red carpet recently, and they love me. Diamond and Silk love me. I love Diamond and Silk. You were reaching out to me, mm-hmm. and you've all been very kind to me with open arms. And Brandon Straka as well. We become friends. Joy Villa, Kaya Jones. All these people have really opened their arms to me, because they're like, we need more people like you, because I'm an asset. I'm an asset to the movement. Right. Because we need to demonstrate true diversity, right? Because we do demonstrate that, but the world needs to know that. Right. That we represent diversity of thought, which is the most diverse you can get. It's really the only diversity that matters. Yeah. Letting people have different opinions in our brains and express them, and still be able to work together. Yeah. And I think that's definitely one of the most important aspects of all of this, and that is that everything that is purported by the media and by leftist journalists, social media, is in fact quite the opposite. Mm-hmm. And that is that the biggest open tent, most tolerant people that I know are people that they may have differences in socialism versus capitalism and economic systems and big government versus small government. But most people that I know, you're dealing with who you are is who you are. And as long as you do your thing, man, and you are working hard, and you're a good person of good character, that's what counts. That's what counts. And I'm hoping that as people watch this, and and learning more about you and others that are in this movement, as you call it, they realize that, you know what, this is what I'm hearing. You tell me if I'm wrong. The left are moving so far to the left, to the extreme elements of the left, where everything is about your identity now. Mm. Everything. That's gross. Okay. I am not that I am gay. I am not that I have blonde hair. Right. I am not that I have white skin. I am not that I'm wearing green. I am not my clothes. I'm not my hair. Like, I'm so much more than that, And they're I'll never be that. I don't fit that. I'm hoping a lot of people are starting to wake up and realize that. I don't care about your nationality, your ethnicity, or your sexuality. I really don't care. And it's gross. It's gross. Right? Yeah. We can hang out, we can get along, and that's, in my mind, 100th on the list
of how I consider somebody in my life.
Right.
And in the movement from the left is 100% all about that right now. I'm hoping it changes some minds, and you do what you're doing and change minds by continuing to be out there.
That's my plan.
So,
that's my goal.
Where can folks find you, Ricky?
You guys can find me at Ricky Rebel Rocks, RICKYREBEL Rocks, on all my socials. You can find me on YouTube. Just click Ricky Rebel. You'll see all my videos. That's a good place to start, is watch how I perform. I consider myself to be an entertainer, number one.
Listen, I'm obviously preparing for the meeting and an interview here. I watched a lot of your videos. You've got some great music.
Thank you.
And so, yeah,
Thank you.
and I've seen you perform live on. You can find all of this on YouTube. So check his channel out. It's definitely great music, and hopefully you'll get some new fans. So
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited.
yeah. So thank you so much, and folks, thank you for joining us here at Whiskey Politics. You can again find us at America's Voice Television Network. You can also find us at YouTube. Please make sure you click that subscribe button. The comment boards are getting pretty lively these days, and you can also find me at Twitter at David Sussman, and at iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, and the Ricochet Audio Network. Again, very special thanks to Ricky Rebel for joining us here today in Malibu. Rather windy day.
Windy, my hair's blowing everywhere.
And we'll be back again very soon at Whiskey Politics.